This lesson is formulas. It uses SOL G.3a, where we will investigate and use formulas for finding distance, midpoint, and slope. So reviewing the coordinate plane. In the coordinate plane, the horizontal number line is called the x-axis, and the vertical number line is called the y-axis. And their 0 points are at the origin. They intersect. Now, I should say intersect. And their 0 points are called the origin. X goes left and right, y goes up and down. X is positive to the right, negative to the left. Y is positive up and negative down. So if you're looking for the distance between any 2 points on the coordinate plane, the points are x1, y1, and x2, y2, use this distance formula. Notice these 2's and 1's are the names of the points, the second x and the first x. This 2 is an exponent. This is squared. This 2 and 1 are the names of the y's, second y, first y. And this is squaring it. Don't confuse your subscripts with the exponents. So if I want to find the distance between the points -3, 2 and 4, 1, use the distance formula. X minus x. Let me write it this way. And if you need to label x1, y1, and x2, y2, feel free to do that if it helps you. So, second x is 4, minus the first x is -3. Be careful with your double negatives there. The first minus is in the formula, and the second minus is from the -3. I'm subtracting -3. Plus, second y is 1, minus the first y is 2. 4 minus -3 is 7. 1 minus 2 is -1. And here's where you need to be careful, because 7 squared is 49. And a negative squared, you need to remember that this is in parentheses being squared. A negative squared is a positive. That's a +1. If you put -1 squared in your calculator, it will give you -1. You have to do -1 in parentheses squared to get the +1 that you want. Here your calculator is forced to do the negative first, then the exponent. If it's like this, it'll do the exponent first and then do -1 times it. So you have to put a negative in parentheses to square it on a calculator. That is the square root of 50, which is approximately 7.1. So use the formula, substitute the values in, and simplify it. And remember that a negative squared is a positive. Midpoints next. On the coordinate plane, if you're looking for the midpoint between 2 points, this is your formula. Notice, it's in parentheses with a comma in the middle. That's because the midpoint is a point, so it will be written like a point. X comma y. Add the x's, take half, add the y's, take half. It's the average of the points. So if I'm looking for the midpoint between these, again, if you need to, put a x1, y1 and a x2, y2, if that helps you. Using the formula, I have x1 plus x2 divide by 2, comma, y1 is 5 plus y2 is 4, divide by 2. -2 plus 6 is 4. 5 plus 4 is 9. And then simplify it. 4 halves is 2. And 9 halves, you can leave it as 9 halves or you can call it a 4.5. Either one is correct. Make sure, though, that all of your fractions are reduced and everything is in simplest form. For slope, if you're looking for the slope is at what rate the line is slanting, whether it's slanted up or down, or if it's horizontal. You comparing the rise, which is the vertical change, over the run, which is the horizontal change. So you could call this M equals, I'll put a M equals there. M equals rise over run. M is the slope. The official formula, the slope of a line between 2 points, M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And x1 and x2 can't equal each other because then you would be dividing by 0. And you'll see what happens when that occurs. You have to remember the y's are on top, the x's are on the bottom. So if I have this example, the slope of the line between -2, -1, and 4, 5. Here we're labeling x1, x2, y1, y2, if you need to do that. And then use the slope formula. M equals y2 is 5 minus y1 is -1 over x2 is 4 minus x1 is -2. That's a 6 over 6, which reduces to 1. Always reduce your slope. Put your slope in simplest form. So this has a slope of 1. Now what does that number mean? If a line has a positive slope, that means it rises from left to right. If it has a negative slope, it falls from left to right. If you get a 0 in the denominator when your x values are the same, it's undefined. There is no slope there. It's a vertical line. It has infinite slope, and we can't define infinity. So undefined is a vertical line. And then if your slope is 0, that's a horizontal line. When the 0 is in the numerator, it's 0. When the 0 is in the bottom, in the denominator, it's vertical. It's undefined slope. When the 0 is under, it's undefined. When the 0 is under, it's undefined. So here's some more examples of slope. The slope between 4, -5 and 3, -5. Use your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You get 0 divided by 1, which is 0. That's a horizontal line. Remember, when 0 is in the numerator, the slope is 0. This line, between 3, 4 and 3, -2, when we do the slope formula, we get a 0 in the denominator. Can't do that. We can't divide by 0. When the 0 is under, it's undefined. Slope is undefined. This is a vertical line. When the 0 is under, it's undefined. Couple more here. From 7, 6 and -4, 6. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You get 6 minus 6 over -4 minus 7, which is 0 over -11, which is 0. 0 divided by a number is 0. This is a horizontal line. can see right there, if you plot those points, it's a horizontal line through those points. How about from -3, -2, and -3, 8? Use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 8 minus y1 is -2. x2 is -3 minus x1 is -3. You get 10 divided by 0. The 0 is under, so it's undefined. And that is a vertical line. You can see on the coordinate plane, if you plot those points, you do get a vertical line through them. Vertical lines have an undefined slope. So let's review what all we have here. Here, find ES, the measure of segment ES. The measure of a segment is the length of a segment, and length is distance. So we will do the distance formula. Let's get the coordinates here. S is at 4 right, 4 up, so that's 4, 4. E is 3 left, 4 down, so that's -3, -4. And the distance, remember it's your big old square root. We will say that this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. Second x minus first x squared plus second y minus first y squared. That's a -7 squared. Hope you remember what we do when we square a negative. And that's a -8 squared. Remember, a negative squared is positive. That's a 49 plus -8 squared is 64. Those make a 113. And let's go nearest tenth is about 10.6. So that segment has a length of about 10.6. We found it using the distance formula. When you're looking for length, use distance. How about the distance here? They just give you 2 points. x1, y1, x2, y2. So a big old square root, parentheses, second x, -6, minus first x2, squared, plus second y is -4, minus first y is 7, squared. -6 minus 2 is -8. -4 minus 7 is -11. -8 squared is positive 64. -11 squared is positive 121. Remember, you have to put it in parentheses and square it on your calculator to get the positive. If you forget the parentheses, it'll give you a negative. Or just remember, a negative squared is positive. That's the square root of 185 when you add those together. And finally, hit the square root button, and that's about 13.6. Substitute the values in and simplify it. So now we're looking for the midpoint. Remember, the midpoint is a point, big old parentheses. It's got a x plus x. Let me write that better. So -8 and divide by 2, comma, y plus y and divide by 2. -2 plus -8 is -10. 9 plus -4 is 5. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. Make sure you simplify that. 5 halves is just 5 halves, or you could call it a 2.5. Either is fine. Remember, with midpoint, you add the numbers and divide by 2. Put it in parentheses with a comma. At this point, if you want to pause the video and try these, and then hit play and check and see what you got, I'm going to pause the video and then pause the recording and then put all the work up at once so you can check it all at once. So hopefully you've got all these, and there are the answers, and you can check. 5.7 for the distance. For the midpoint, you might have had 1.5 comma 3. First slope is 9/8, which is positive. It goes upward from left to right. The next slope, you have a negative divided by a negative, which is positive 1/4. That also goes upward from left to right. And that last slope, 0 divided by negative 9 is 0. That's horizontal. So with all of your formulas, just make sure that the x's and y's substitute in the correct place in the formula. Simplify them properly. Make sure everything is in simplest form and rounded to whatever the directions say to round to.